Sometimes incomplete information is more dangerous than the wrong information. Don't just read the organization, watch it. Observe it. But the truth is not in the slides or any presentations. It is in how people behave every day. You have to watch that. Questions rarely deceive others first. They first start deceiving themselves. And this doesn't happen in a dramatic way. It doesn't happen quickly like this. It happens very slowly, very quietly. Not what is written, not what is reported, but what is actually happening. The most common mistake is this. Leaders say they want honesty, but they reward only good results. It is better to show good news than the real news.
Welcome back to Business Unbound. Every week, I sit down with exceptional practitioners who share how they actually think about the most consequential matters in their domain. We will explore the mental models, the frameworks, and instincts they have developed over the course of their careers. You get what took them a decade to build in one conversation, and you leave with sharper thinking for the decisions that you face. I'm your host, Florian Hoff. Today, I'm joined by Salih Islam. Salih has spent more than 25 years inside companies across industries, building internal audit functions and enterprise risk management frameworks from the ground up, from Arthur Andersen to global retail. He is currently the head of internal audit at Floormar, a cosmetics brand operating over 1,000 stores across more than 100 countries. But today's episode is not about internal audit. It is about what 25 years in that position has done to the way that Salih thinks, the diagnostic patterns that he has developed for reading any organization's true risk and ethics culture, the specific signals he looks for that matters most and that people who are in the room are typically not paying attention to. The mechanics that he has watched again and again across industries by which accurate information gets softened, delayed, or reframed before it reaches the people who need to act on it. If you want to know how to look at an organization the way someone does who has spent a career finding the gap between the paper version and the practical reality, this conversation is for you. This is Business Unbound. Let's dive in. Salih Islam, welcome to Business Unbound.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Florian. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure indeed, and I'm glad that you are here. And before we get into the heart of our conversation, tell me, what are you working on right now? What are the actual focuses for you on a day-to-day basis?
I see. As you said, I'm working for a retail company. Right now, my work is mainly driven by our annual internal audit plan, as every internal auditor follows. During the year, I focus on different risk areas of the company. Since I work for a retail company, a big part of my time is spent auditing stores all around different countries. So this is something I really value because I'm not only looking at the reports from the office. I go to the stores, I observe how things actually work. I talk to people, our employees, and I try to understand how decisions are really made on the ground. At the same time, I also work on areas like third-party relationships, and the central part, IT topics, and all the governance between headquarters and local markets, of course. If I simplify my focus, is this. I try to understand how the business really operates in real life, not just how it's supposed to operate on paper, because especially in retail, there can be a big gap between procedures and reality. So my role is to see that gap clearly and help the organization close that gap.
And you have actually spent, I believe, over 25 years in internal audit and inside organizations. And you worked across steel, energy, construction, now consumer goods, and then global retail in your current capacity. What that means for our audience is that you have spent a career specifically trained on the question, is what this organization believes about itself, is it actually true? Now, what did this position or this vantage point that you acquired teach you? What did you learn over the course of your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if I look back to my profession, at my career, I was always trained directly or indirectly to ask one simple question. That's all the motto over the 25 years. Is this really true? I mean, this is the question that I always ask to trained and directly or indirectly. Not what is written, not what is reported, but what is actually happening. That's the important part. And what I learned over time is this. Questions rarely deceive others first. They first start deceiving themselves. And this doesn't happen in a dramatic way. It doesn't happen quickly like this. It happens very slowly, very quietly. So people don't sit together and decide to hide reality. Instead, small things start happening. Small problems are ignored. Bad news is slightly softened, and good results are slightly exaggerated in many companies. And each of these seems very harmless. But when you repeat this over time, you create a version of reality that feels comfortable, but it is not accurate. So I have seen very capable companies in my whole life with very intelligent leaders, CEOs, the bosses, and those type of people who truly believed everything was under their control. But when you go deeper, you see something else. The controls exist, but they are not working. The processes exist, but they are not. There are many of them, they are bypassed. So risks exist, but they are not visible. So the biggest insight for me is this. The danger is not intentional dishonesty. The danger is gradual self-deception. So self-deception usually comes from one place, the need to feel that everything is fine. So because the reality is often comfortable, and if company doesn't actively create space for uncomfortable truth, it will slowly replace reality with a more comfortable story. This is the summary.
And let's actually go a little bit deeper into this and to really try to understand how to read what is really going on the ground. As I believe it's true what you explained, that many leaders, many even capable and smart leaders, they are certainly of the impression that they have a good read on the organization. But what you explained suggests that this belief can be wrong. Now, what have you learned about how to actually assess whether an organization, a team, or a situation is as healthy as it appears, so to speak? What do you look for, Salih, that other leaders are not paying attention to?
Sure. Let me give you an example. I realized in my last store audits earlier in my career, I mean, I worked in this company 15 years. When I first started, I was working in a retail company, first time in my life. When I went to the stores, I was making a store audit. I saw it, management believed everything was going well. Sales were strong, reports looked very clean, and there were no major issues. But when I visited the stores, I saw something very simple. Yeah, I mean, not the bad furniture or something else. I saw empty modules. In my profession, empty shelves. There was no products. Many products are missing. So I asked, why are these products are missing? So they said in the store, we are waiting for stock. So then I checked more stores and saw the same issue. But in the reports, everything still looked fine. I mean, that was the moment it really clicked me. Smart, well-intentioned leaders can be completely wrong, not because they don't care, because they don't see the full picture. They don't, many of them, they don't go to the field. They don't see it. So no one was lying. No one was seeing what was actually happening. And since then, I always say, sometimes the truth is not in the report, it's on the shelf. I mean, in retail, of course, leaders should run the business from the field, not from the office. This is the thing I can give you as an example.
That's very interesting what you explained with regards to empty shelves, right? And in this case, I mean, it's a physical product, and it seems trivial enough, almost like obvious. Go to the store, and if you see the shelves are empty everywhere, okay, you know, maybe something is going on, and potentially you could even sell more stock if you had the stock in the first place, right?
Exactly.
More broadly speaking, when you enter into a new audit engagements, can you talk about what the first things are, the first aspects that you try to verify?
Normally, there is a process for every internal auditor should follow. But I think if you look at the perspective of leaders of the organization, first of all, they all look at the reports, dashboards, KPIs, and they feel like they understand what is going on, like the example that I gave you. But honestly, those things show performance, not reality. If when we come to your question, if I really want to understand what is happening, I don't start with the reports. I start with people. I watch very simple things like something very weird I'm going to tell you now, but like who talks in the meetings, who talks too much, who stays very quiet, what happens when someone brings up a problem, whether the room goes silent or people get uncomfortable. I also look how fast bad news moves. I mean, if something bad happened, if bad news traveling slowly, that's a problem. So, and I pay attention to decisions. Are they really discussed, or is the meeting just confirming something that already decided, you know? So another thing I have learned from this, if everything feels too smooth, you have to be careful. So yeah, I mean, the real organizations are messy. There are always issues. If everything looks perfect, it usually means that you are not seeing the full picture. You are not seeing the reality. So for me, it is very simple. Don't just read the organization, watch it. I mean, observe it. But the truth is not in the slides or any presentations. It is in how people behave every day. You have to watch that. All I can say is that.
And you brought up an interesting point, right? If leaders, even smart and well-intentioned one, they look at reports and they look at data that is being reported to them. I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, does it sometimes also imply that this is a data and information problem? I mean, in the example that you gave, like when you say the shelves, they were empty,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't proper data also solve this problem? You should have data about the number of items that you ordered. You should have data about the number of items that you sold. And then there is a gap. And couldn't you theoretically compare this gap against the stock that you want to hold at any time in the shelves?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the documents are approved very quickly in those type of situations. If you see only the reports, if you see only the KPIs, you see it very shallow space, you know. So you have to, how do you say, you have to be I mean, the question I ask, how are you reviewing these reports so fast? And the answer is simple. The decision is already agreed before it comes for approval, you know. So if I come to your question, in my example, there are many sides of the problem. For example, if it is how I can be more specific. For example, if you see the shelves are empty, if I come up with that example again, you have to look for the warehouse if they have the product but they don't deliver it, or you have to check your production if they have some problems in there. But if you only look at the reports from the store, other things can be solved very quickly, but still you have empty shelves, you know. So you have to see broader angle to this.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing is that basically it is important not to only isolate a specific problem, but to also trace back the problem to the root causes and try to understand what is really going on in the process. Is this understanding accurate?
Exactly.
And
Yeah, you have to. In our profession, it is always the same. You have to go to the root cause, because if you don't solve the root cause, only you are patching the problem. You know, you don't solve it completely.
And Salih, how much of what you have explained, what you are looking for, is trainable? I mean, can a leader who has not spent 25 years in audit like you have, can someone develop this same instinct? And if yes, what would they need to start doing differently?
Exactly. I mean, yes, it can definitely be learned, or it's trainable, but it is not really about tools or techniques. It is more about how you think. You know, you need to become a bit more curious, a bit more skeptical, as I say, not in a negative way. I mean, you don't see, for example, some internal auditors or some people, they see everybody in the company is a thief. No, I don't mean that. It's not in a negative way. Just willing to question what you are seeing. When everything looks perfect, instead of feeling comfortable, you ask yourself, what am I seeing? What am I not seeing here? I mean, also leaders or internal auditors or department heads like us need to get closer to what is actually happening, not just through reports. Because I see many people, many executives, they sit on their desk and they always analyze the reports and everything, you know. But walking around, listening to people and asking simple, open questions, that's the important part. And one other important habit is not accepting the first answer too quickly. If you stay curious and keep asking, you start to see what is really going on underneath. I mean, not on the shallow part. So yes, it is trainable, but it is more about changing your mindset than learning a new technique, you know. It's you have to see the behavior under it.
This is interesting. This reminds me of a framework that I came across. I don't remember where I've learned it, but it's very simple. It's the 5 why framework. And
Exactly.
as you said, you ask follow-up questions, right? And you ask why is this? And then you another why and
Another why. Yeah, exactly.
and you do this 5 times, right? That's the framework. And
Exactly.
understanding of what is really going on.
Exactly.
And Salih, in preparing for our conversation today, I also looked at your social media profiles, and I saw one interesting aspect that regularly came up. You have been referring to internal auditors as allies of the truth, which to me implies that truth faces some opposition, perhaps. Well, obviously, every leader depends on the quality of the information reaching them. Can you walk me through how accurate information actually gets softened or delayed, reframed as it moves through an organization?
Exactly. Yeah, I can. Information, in my part, usually doesn't distort it in one big step. I mean, it happens gradually as it moves up the organization. At the operational level, problems are very clear. I mean, people know exactly what is wrong. But as that information moves up to the higher levels, it gets simplified, then softened, then reframed. So the real issue becomes a small delay or a temporary challenge. And by the time it reaches to senior leadership, to the top, it doesn't look like a problem anymore. I mean, this doesn't happen because people want to lie. It is more subtle than that. I mean, there is a fear of consequences. People fear. The desire to look competent, and each management layer slightly adjusts the message to make it more acceptable. You remember when we were kids, we used to play whisper game. You talk to somebody's ear, and he talks to another, but by the end of the line, it comes a completely different message. So in this example, it is like that. There is also presentation pressure. Before information reaches leadership, it is turned into slides and summaries, and in that process, reality gets cleaned. The messy parts disappear. So what leaders see is not wrong, but it is incomplete. So sometimes incomplete information is more dangerous than the wrong information. So we have to clear that gap. So I mean, as you heard, the allies of truth, we are, as internal auditors, we have to say the truth, whatever it comes. I mean, whatever it takes. We don't how do you say, measure the consequences. So our part is that.
And if you are a senior leader who is listening to what you're explaining right now, what should you be doing to counteract that? I mean, how do you build a system around yourself as a leader that resists this, distortion and cleaning and making information more acceptable? How do you do that?
If I was the one you said, if I was a senior leader, the key is to actively create space for truth. I mean, you have to make it safe for people to bring bad news. If people feel punished, they will filter what they tell you. Do not rely on the one source of information. If I was a senior leader, I don't rely on one source of information. We have to go to different levels, ask the same question and compare the answers. So asking simple follow-up questions like, what is not working? What is not working? Or what are we not seeing? Those type of questions are important. And one other important habit is to reward honesty, because not just good results, because the moment people see that truth is valued, information becomes more real, more clear, and it is not filtered that time.
And based on your experience, I mean, you also worked for quite a few different companies over the course of your career. What do you do to instill this culture, to build this culture of honesty and trust, and that information should be said out loud? How do you cultivate this culture in an organization?
I see. I mean, I've seen in my life, I've seen two types of organizations. I mean, for the 25 years, maybe more now. One type is honest. They talk about problems, accept mistakes, and try to improve. But the other type looks very good on paper, with nice reports and good numbers. And people in the Middle East or in this part of the world, if they have, for example, third-party auditors, external auditors, all the numbers look very good on paper, nice reports, good numbers, those type of things. But inside, there are problems that people do not talk about. So the main difference is how they react to problems. In honest organizations, like the first type, people say, we have an issue. we have a problem, so let's fix it. They tell like that. But in others, they minimize to or hide it. This is both about leadership and structures. We say in our profession, it's tone at the top. Leaders who are open and calm create space for honesty, but structure, if you structure things, is also a problem. If system punishes mistakes, people stay silent. That's normal, very simple, you know. If you say something I don't like, if I punish you after that, you next time you don't say anything. So simply, honest organizations make it safe to speak. Others make it risky. That's the important part of it.
What are the actual problems that are being caused if an organization internally is not honest and information are regularly, let's say, cleaned up and made more acceptable throughout? What is the consequence that organizations face?
I see. It usually breaks down in, as I said, in behavior, not intention. Leaders say they want honesty, but when they hear the bad news, they react negatively, as I always say. Maybe they become defensive, question the person, or ignore it. People notice this very quickly. And even if the leader means well, the message becomes it is not safer to speak. The most common mistake is this. Leaders say they want honesty, but they reward only good results. I mean, it is in the capitalist way of thinking. They reward the good results, and they say, yeah, I want honest employees, honest people. You can speak freely, you can speak everything, but as I said, you have to reward honesty too. So people learn it. It is better to show good news than the real news. Over time, honesty decreases. So this is the thing that I should mention.
Do you have a concrete example for how you do this in practice?
The company that I was working for was planning to enter to a new country in an international part of way and make significant investment over there. I think it was Germany or Spain, something like that. I am not giving names here, but senior leadership was very excited. And a lot of time and money had already been spent over there through the project. But when I reviewed the project, I saw the expected return was very low and the payback period was very long. So we had a meeting with the audit committee, and the boss also was there. So I reported this to senior management and the boss itself. So in that moment, it became very clear that the last one and the 2 years of work and spending might not bring the expected value. That was not easy to hear. I mean, it was not easy to say, but it was not even difficult to hear, you know. Because it was not just about numbers, it was challenging a decision they believed in. So when I learned is that truth becomes difficult when it questions past decisions. I mean, the more you invest in something, the harder it becomes to question it. But that is the exactly happened when you need a question. It's most. I mean, the strong leaders stay calm, listen, and that time they did the same, but they were disappointed, but they stayed calm and listened to me and are willing to change the direction, because in the end, truth may be uncomfortable, as I said, but ignoring it is much more costly, you know. And sometimes somebody needs to say the king is naked.
What distinguishes leaders who can actually receive difficult information and act on them from those who cannot? I mean, in this situation, the board could have also said, Salih, thanks for sharing the information. We don't believe it or we don't want to hear it. We're still pursuing it. So what differentiates these two categories of leaders?
It's the character of the leader, I guess, because I was working with a CEO for the 20 years ago. He was always telling me, please, when you say something, you have to prove it, and you have to convince me that my decision will be changed. I was doing that, but whatever I did that time, he didn't change it because he was, how do you say, very self-confident. Sometimes it is, I don't know the English word for it. Everything he said is the right one, not from the others, so that part, I mean, if you have a leader like that, whatever you say, whatever you do, it's not important. The things in his mind is the right way or that time. But if you have an open leader, like the example that I gave you, you can change things. You can, because they listen, because the character of them is okay. They care about the money, they care about the profit of the company, they care about everything. But first of all, they are open to suggestions, they are open to recommendations, they are open to analysis, and they value people because they hired me there to give some advices, to give some recommendations. And if they don't value my opinions, the company will lose. So he had that mindset. So he accepted, he listened. There are two types of people, two types of characters in the leader's mind.
Mm-hmm. And in your role as an internal auditor, as you explained, this is what you're there for, right? Your role is to determine the truth and then report back to management to act on the information that you identify.
Exactly.
If you're, let's say, a senior manager or you are in another leadership capacity and you identify something that could be problematic for the organization, and you have this type where the leader may not want to hear it. How do you deal with this? What would you recommend in such a situation?
I see. I mean, my job is to say it. My job is to say whatever the truth is. I mean, I am an internal auditor. Actually, nobody likes me in the company. So if I don't tell the truth to the people that I report to, that time I won't be doing my job, Even if it is ugly truth, even it's uncomfortable truth, I should tell the truth. So that's my job. That's my purpose over there,
Now, Salih, we have covered quite a lot of ground, and I believe there were many interesting aspects that you explained. If you had to distill a little bit further what you have learned about how you actually see the true state of an organization and the judgment that you have built over your career, what are the 2 or 3 most essential things that explain how your mind works when you enter an organization?
I see. First of all, I can say, if there is one thing to remember, is this: do not assume what you see is the full truth. In organizations, things often look better on the surface, but the reality is usually a bit different. So instead of just accepting what is presented, take one step closer and ask one more question, like we talked about. Look a bit deeper and listen very carefully, because small signals tell big stories, and many problems do not come from the what we see, and but from what we do not question. That's the real problem is. So if I give you one little idea, it will be like this: be curious enough to look beyond the surface. That's the motto. Other than that, right now I'm inspired by ideas by one specific person. For example, I've been thinking a lot about simple idea, questioning what feels normal. That's the important part. Be curious and ask questions, and to look beyond the surface.
Now, Salih, for someone listening who is about to join a company as a senior leader, or this person maybe wants to invest in it or partner with it, what are the first 2 or 3 questions that this person should be asking to really understand, okay, what is going on, or versus what they are seeing? Is this the reality or just a version of it?
Exactly. So, yeah, it's a good question, by the way. I would ask 3 very simple questions. First of all, how do you handle bad news here? Secondly, do people speak openly or do they stay quiet? This is the first question I would ask because it shows many things. Second question, can you show me a recent mistake and what you learned from it? If they cannot answer this clearly, it usually means problems are hidden. And the third question I would ask, where the processes not work as planned. I mean, every organization has gaps. So if they say everything looks very perfect, everything looks normal, you should be careful because these questions looks simple, but the answers tells you very quickly whether you are seeing reality or just a well-presented version of it.
And these are, I think, interesting questions. And if I think back about the conversation that we had, this really in my mind captures many of the essences that you have already explained to us. And I'm still surprised by, let's say, simplicity or the nature of obviousness of what you're explaining. But I understand from you that sometimes it's the basics, it's the simple aspects, and maybe they are so obvious that they are regularly overlooked.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people see everything is very complex. When you enter a company, you see many departments, many people are working there, especially big companies, Sometimes people, they don't know each other from different departments. And it is usual. But during this complexity, as I told you, so there are some very simple questions. If you ask them, you can have the answers and you can realize what is the reality or what is the version of it.
Salih, let's start wrapping up our conversation for today. And now I'm being curious. What are you genuinely interested about right now that, let's say, has nothing to do with your professional domain?
I see. Interesting. I always believe that to be successful in my profession or in any profession, human relationships are very important. Recently, I have become very curious about human behavior, not in a professional way, but more in personal way, during my personal life, of course, too. Yeah. So I think a lot about why people think the way they do. So why they react differently to the same situation and how small experiences shape their decisions. I find this very interesting, because the more you understand people, the more you understand life in general. And honestly, it helps not only work, but also in everyday relationships with your friends during in your daily life,
And just top of your mind, is there something in this domain that you've recently learned that stands out to you, like from this behavioral human analysis?
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm more inspired by ideas than by one specific person, if you may ask. I have been thinking a lot about one simple idea, questioning what feels normal. Because many problems do not look like problems, they look like routine, you know. And over time, people stop questioning them. At the time, at the same time, um recently I have been very interested in historical figures, you know, especially of the lives of prophets throughout the human history since the beginning, you know. So the challenges they faced, their patience, and how they managed the relationships with people give me a lot inspiration in my daily life, also in work, in my profession too. And it reminds me that many of these situations we face today are not new. So there is a lot when we can learn from how they responded. I also enjoy reading about psychology and decision making, those type of stuff, because in the end, organizations are created by people, as I told. So for me, inspiration comes from staying curious, questioning what feels normal, and learning from both human behavior and history, of course.
I'm just wondering right now, you mentioned historical figures and prophets and that their
Exactly.
experiences can be applied to our modern life. What is one of the examples?
I can give you some examples from Moses, from Jesus, from Prophet Muhammad, from any Noah, for example, because those people who are the prophets of the God, they explained people something very new. I mean, uh, if you say, for example, who has the most problems in the world, who is the people who has the most problems in the world, they are them, because everything they say is something new. Everything they say has causing problems, and they have a lot of problems coming to them, and they are trying to solve it with human relationships. You know, so those people, if we realize how they acted, how they try to solve everything, we can understand the human behavior in general. You know, because humans are the same, whether it's technology, whether it's now we have everything that we need, technological advancements, those type of things, but we are the same. I mean, if we lived in 19 after, maybe pre-age, before Jesus, after Jesus, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, it is the people are the same. Different areas, different, how do you say, environments, but same situations, same problems. So it is interesting to examine their lives, how they acted, you know.
And then, Salih, if our audience if our audience members just remember one thing from our conversation, one insight or one way of thinking differently, or even one action that they should take, what would you want that to be?
I mean, I can tell you, you have many problems in your life, in your personal life, in your work life, in profession, and you will have it in the future. And 100%, this is for sure. The problems never go away. But if you want to solve it with good intentions in your personal life or in your work life, just look below the surface. I mean, asking questions, listening carefully is important. One thing I can say, as I said before, be curious enough to look beyond the surface and everything in your personal life too.
Salih Islam, thank you for this conversation today.